Okay. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at tonight's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? This could also be for anybody that has taken an oath to the de facto government, such as a notary, poll worker, school board member. Just unmute, state your name and the state. Okay. Second reading. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in a public forum is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at tonight's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Just state your name, state, and position. This also could be for anyone that has signed a de facto oath to the government, notary, poll worker, school board member. Of course, address. Nobody? Okay. Third and final reading. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at tonight's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Just say your name, state, and position. Could be a notary, poll worker, school board member, anybody that signed an oath to the de facto government. And if you did and you don't state it and you bring up something later on down the line, it ain't going to work for you. Just saying. Okay. Everyone's silent, so I'm taking it nobody signed an oath. Is there anybody that would like to open up with a very small, quick opening prayer?
I can say a quick one.
Great. Go ahead.
Father, we give thanks for thy bounty and the people who are here. That's it.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I was leaning over. Okay. Glenn, welcome on tonight. Always glad to have you. Pleasure to have you. And I'm going to mute, and you got the floor.
Okay. I announced earlier that I was planning on talking about how I got out of paying the filing fees. I filed a lawsuit recently against county extortion thieves over property taxes, land taxes. And so I think I built a pretty good case against them. I think they're going to have trouble, but you just don't know. So we'll see. But at any rate, and I'll show you what the court gave me, and that way you'll see. And this is a pretty standard thing that they put out. Just looking for it here.
You said it, land tax. It almost sounds like air tax. It's fun.
Well, I specify that it's land because they call it property tax, and that can be a lot of things. And So I call it land tax because that's what they're taxing. And I think they're going to have a problem. Where the heck? There we go. This is the first one they gave me. This is a notice of deficiency. So they always, GlennWinningham. I always say GlennWinningham, House of Fern, and they always GlennWinningham and Pro Se. But anyways, filed this complaint after review of the following deficiencies appear. Plaintiff has not paid the applicable filing or administrative fee or filed a long form application to proceed in form of papyrus. Clerk is followed required. The court shall take a copy of this order to be mailed to the plaintiff, a long form IFP in form of papyrus application to proceed. It's hereby ordered that the plaintiff shall either pay the total filing and administrative fees or complete the sections of the long form application and return it to the clerk of the court on and before October 21st, 2024. Failure to timely pay the applicable or submit a fully completed IFP application by October 1st could result in dismissal of this case without further notice. And that's the 17th, and that's the magistrate judge. And that's the application. Then there's also another one he sent me. Right. So I'll show you that one too.
I'm not saying you sound like Rob Ryder, but you guys both have websites that kind of are cool, or YouTube videos and stuff similar. I think PPT.
I know Rob Ryder's got a lot of videos, but anyway, so this is actually the first one. This was sent out before. After you file, it says filing procedures. After you file your complaint, unless you're excused for cause or the presiding judge directs otherwise, you must register as an electronic case files, ECF user, within 14 days. So they want me to do electronic filing. I have to submit a paper copy and then an extra one for the judge. So this is just a standard. This is a standard one. They want me to do electronic filing. I got a case dismissed for not doing electronic filing. So anyway, so that's it. That's basically the whole thing. It's just a that's the standard one they sent out. So, and then what I should do is I'll show you what I used to send them. I've never, I always get into a fight with them over the filing fees, and so it never got to the point of doing the electronic filing. But I did get a case against FedEx. I got it removed into federal court. I filed a lawsuit against FedEx, and it was removed into federal court, and they dismissed it because, see, that when you remove it, whoever removes it pays the filing fee, and so I didn't have to pay the filing fee, but then I got it dismissed because I didn't do electronic filing. Now that I know what to do, let me show you what I've done in the past first, because that'll give you an idea.
So someone could sue someone, the party being sued could move it to the federal, and they have to pay the filing fees, and then it could be dismissed.
Right.
Which for them was kind of what they wanted, right?
Sorry?
That's kind of like what the other side hoped. They hope it would be dismissed. Is that what you said? And it was, or you got to do it again.
Well, they did get it dismissed, but just trying to look for the
I've never really even been in an American court, so forgive my ignorance. Never sued anyone. I don't think I've been sued. I probably have been sued. I don't even know it.
yeah, I've done it in Canada. I've never had too much trouble in Canada with lawsuits not paying filing fees. I never pay filing fees in Canada.
What if you move it to a federal court, or remove it? I think was the word used.
In Canada?
Or in the States, or because in that direction, when you remove it, you said there was a fee, or only if the person who removes it, or
if you remove it, you can remove a state case in the federal court, but you got to justify it. And I've had cases that I filed removed. I filed them at the state court, and they got removed into federal court. I can't find that. I might have to keep looking here in a different case. I could have swore I had one in this case. Let's check this other case. Anyways, yeah, you can, but you have to justify it. They don't like it. You have to, like I had a case that I filed over property taxes in Arizona, and I named the Arizona Attorney General, and the Arizona Attorney General removed it into federal court, and which I was kind of surprised, and I didn't really want it there, and so I kind of got belligerent, and the court dismissed the case, but my problem went away. Never had any more problems with property taxes. So, I got accomplished what I wanted to get accomplished. I dumped on the judge. It was a judge I dealt with previously, and so I kind of dumped on him. And, anyways. Yeah. Okay.
Like, then what does dumped on him mean? Like, just gave him a lot of records or something? Files?
No, how would you put it? I got kind of belligerent with him. Here we go.
I shouldn't be think of two things at the same time.
Here we go. Here's one that I went and filled out. So let me this is one that I filled out. It's an impecuniosity form. So I signed it without prejudice, all rights reserved, which worked. What I did was I put without prejudice, all rights reserved, without a signature, and the judge sent it back and said it's unsigned. So I've tried a bunch of different things. And so then I just put my signature there, and she accepted that. This wasn't the same judge. This was another case. Anyway, so I put NA is not applicable, and then I just NA'd every block. See attached affidavit. I just NA'd everything. See affidavit attached here to and incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. NA, everywhere. NA. And this actually worked a couple times, but it quit working. NA. So, and then this is the affidavit. So, in the absence of evidence to the contrary, I'm a Texian national, devoid of any knowledge of surrendering myself to the District of Columbia or their U.S. citizen scam, as found on the affidavit of corporate denial, recorded the penal account recorder fee, now public policy and unrebutted truth. In the absence of the evidence of contrary evidence, I'm a free man on the soil of Texas and other American states from time to time, and devoid of any knowledge of surrendering or volunteering myself to the armed forces of any country, and hold any respondents to the strictest proof to the contrary. This is actually wording I got from a friend of mine, and I think that that's pretty good. Anyways, I have no first-hand knowledge of a date of birth, and my mother and a doctor who assisted with it are now dead, and I failed to cross-examine them to determine the veracity of their information. Therefore, any evidence of a date of birth is hearsay evidence and inadmissible as evidence in any court of law. But I do remember finishing high school in 1975, over 40 years ago. They need to know that you're over 18. Okay, that's the only reason they need a birth date. Therefore, I'm well past the age of majority. In the absence of, I'm a Texian national, devoid of any knowledge of surrendering or volunteering myself to the District of Columbia or their Social Security scam, since I failed to be a government employee, and under District of Columbia codes, anyone that has a Social Security number is federal personnel. I have many good nominal servants that work for governments on Turtle Island at various levels. I have no idea what they get paid, but in my opinion, it's not enough, because we need people to hunt down thieves and murderers, and I'm cognizant of my duty to come to their aid when needed. But when they perjure their oaths and engage in unlawful activities, it's my duty to bring their crimes to light and do everything I can to make sure they get brought to justice. Even though your rule 201 of your rules of evidence is foreign to me as a man, I intend to compel any judge who reads this application to give judicial notice, since so many of them like to be bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judge, therefore, and thereby pretend that some things are not said. And that's true, they do. On 13th of May, I received an order of referral from Reed O'Connor, a bought and paid for clerk masquerading as United States District Judge. That's, by the way, the same judge that I've got right now. Ordering his slave, Jeffrey L. Curtin, to respond. Now, he's got a different magistrate judge, and I'm not quite sure why that's the case, but there's a different magistrate judge. So I think that they picked a different one for me. I don't think I've dealt with this other magistrate judge. So anyways, according to the website, this is what their oath is. Constitution of the United States of America requires Curtin in order to support the Constitution. And that's Article 4, Section 3. Jeffrey Curtin's oath of office and Reed O'Connor's oath of office is to me, because it brings into action and enforces this great and glorious principle that the people are the sovereign of this country, and consequently that fellow citizens and joint sovereigns cannot be degraded by appearing with each other or in their own courts to have their controversies determined. So we're on page 8 of 63. So there's a bunch of pages in this. There's evidence that I've attached. And my ancestors My ancestors were in Virginia prior to the War of Independence, pursuant to the maxims of law. The right of blood and kindred cannot be destroyed by any civil law, and the power which is derived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. And my ancestors wrote the Constitution for the United States of America, as evidenced in the Statement of Original Status as recorded with this affidavit of corporate denial. Jeffrey Curtin's working under instructions from Reed O'Connor, and they've demonstrated they intend to operate in their private capacity under the Clearfield Doctrine. And then governments descend to the level of mere private corporation, take on characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private corporate commercial paper and securities is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporation individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government, and revenue officers under the Federal Tax Lien Act, 1966. Anyways, in 1871, bar members in the U.S. Congress set up an unconstitutional municipal corporation for the District of Columbia, and this is two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. And prior to the War of Independence, there were two nations. There were no nations on this planet, just corporate governments, and this is Chisholm versus Georgia, where it says that. It says here, right here, the question to be determined is whether this state, so respectable and whose claims soar so high, is amenable to the jurisdiction of this Supreme Court. This question, important in itself, will depend on others, more important still, and perhaps may be ultimately resolved into no less than this. Do people of the United States form a government? By that law, the several states and governments spread over our globe are considered as forming a society, not a nation. So the Supreme Court right there is saying there's no nations on the planet prior to the War of Independence. Therefore, the unconstitutional corporation in 1871 was set up after the existing model, and all governments at the time of the War of Independence were military dictatorships with various forms of despotism. And this is Chisholm versus Georgia. And despotic governments, the government is usurped in similar manner, both upon the state and the people. Hence, all arbitrary doctrines and pretensions concerning the supreme, absolute, uncontrollable power of government in each man is degraded from the prime rank which he ought to hold in human affairs. In the latter, the state as well as the man is degraded in both degradation. Striking instances occur in history and in politics and in common life. Statutes have been passed extending courts of admiralty and vice admiralty far beyond their ancient limits, to be depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof the published and order the use and exercise of the law martial. And for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter, we saw the misery to which such despotism would reduce us. That's dictatorship, folks. The Constitution of the United States of America is a trust indenture with delegated authority only. Texas is under a military occupation and has been since 1863, when the Union Army invaded Galveston. And then it talks about the three kinds of martial law. We'll try and skip over some of this. Military jurisdictions, two kinds, statutes and a common law of war. So statutes are martial law.
Traffic tickets are war reparations.
With so-called Judge Curtin and O'Connor actually being bought and paid for, clerks masquerading as a judge. And they are proceeding under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. When a clerk masquerading as a judge is an agent for an administrative agency, it's always a kangaroo court and a bill of pains and penalties. Bill of attainder, unconstitutional, which is a violation of the Constitution, and any bought and paid for a clerk enforcing administrative law and pretending to be a judge does not have the authority to do anything judicial, like issuing orders or warrants. And any clerk pretending to be a judge attempts to do anything judicial, it is a fraud and a nullity, and they accept all liability for their actions. And everything they do is brutum fulmen. And all judges and all officials working for the unconstitutional corporation cease to represent the government. All officials working for the unconstitutional corporation are operating in their private capacity. All officials working for the unconstitutional corporation have no immunity. They have no duty to do anything unconstitutional. Therefore, they're involved in a seditious conspiracy in violation of their own codes. And they're engaged in treason and perjuring their oaths, especially in light of the fact that officers of the court are presumed to know the law. The Constitution of the United States of America requires that I be provided with a Republican form of government, which fails to include any military commissioners operating under General Orders 100, the Libra Code. A Republican form of government fails to include any star chambers. A Republican form of government fails to include any statutes, codes, rules, regulations, because all statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are edicts under martial law as described herein, but only to subjects of the enemy and aliens. Which means Curtin and O'Connor are busy imposing their U.S. buddies' military despotism on me, and they already know all about this because officers of the so-called court are required to know the law. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor can be judges or military commissioners under martial law, depending on what issues they're dealing with and whether they choose to honor their oaths of office, but they cannot be both at the same time. It's impossible for Jeffrey Curtin or Reed O'Connor to make a legal determination about me without representing me, and they have no authority to represent me. It's impossible for Jeffrey Curtin or Reed O'Connor to accuse me of anything without perjuring their oath of office, because my ancestors authored the Constitution of the United States of America, which is their authority to operate. Which means Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor operate under my authority. And I failed to give Jeffrey Curtin or O'Connor permission to talk to me, much less make a legal determination about me or make any presumptions about me. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor are perjuring their oaths of office by accusing me of being a U.S. citizen when there is no evidence that I am a U.S. citizen. And I have specifically stated I'm not a U.S. citizen, as evidenced by the affidavit of corporate denial. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor both know it's impossible to pay their filing fee extortion with Federal Reserve notes. And I've tried to use lawful gold or silver coin, lawful money, and the clerk of the court told me they'd converted into Federal Reserve notes, which falls under international law with their Texas Business and Commerce Code and their Federal Tax Lien Act. Therefore, Curtin and Reed O'Connor intend to perjure their oaths by subjecting me to their commercial transaction. And I've already filed an affidavit of inability to pay legal tender. So is there a recommended number of times I have to say it? Which is further evidence of their intent to engage in multiple of their piece of shit felonies that they love to engage in with impunity, because their U.S. attorney bar member buddies refuse to do anything about it unless they have some political agenda. I've also served my Form 1020 requiring to know how to lawfully pay this debt, and that was done with the Court of Appeals. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor have demonstrated they intend to be military commissioners by attempting to convert this case into a commercial transaction, so they can call it a contract and use it as an excuse to nullify their oath of office and sit there and play stupid like military commissioners do. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor intend to convert my right to justice into a privilege. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor are required to know that their regulations only apply to government employees. The Constitution of the United States of America requires that judges hold office during good behavior only. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor are required to be neutral and unbiased. If Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor cannot be neutral and unbiased, they're required to recuse themselves under the District of Columbia Code's 28 U.S.C. Section 455. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor have demonstrated they intend to be in bad behavior by choosing to be bought and paid for a clerk masquerading as a judge as described here, and thereby engage in honest services fraud in violation of the District of Columbia Codes. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor intend to perjure their oaths. Jeffrey Curtin has demonstrated he intends to subject me to the deprivation of my right to justice and my immunity to his filing fee extortion in violation of 18 U.S.C. 242 under color of his regulations. Reed O'Connor has demonstrated that he intends to subject me to the deprivation of my right to justice and my immunity to his filing fee extortion in violation of 18 U.S.C. 242. Reed O'Connor, Jeffrey Curtin, and Reed O'Connor have demonstrated that they intend to conspire together to threaten me, intimidate me, coerce me, injure me in the free exercise of my right to justice in violation of 18 U.S.C. 241. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor have demonstrated they intend to engage in a seditious conspiracy by using their military despotism to overthrow my common law right to justice with their military dictatorship by imposing their military despotism on me. Jeffrey Curtin and Reed O'Connor are not judges, and everything they do is a fraud and a nullity, and everything they do is brutal fulmen, and their order and notice of deficiency is absolutely void and a nullity. I've sealed this declaration pursuant to locus sigilli. Anyways, there we go. And then I attached, there's about 40 pages of attachments, the corporate denial affidavit, a bunch of stuff. We won't go through all of that. Anyways, so that's how I did it before. Let me see what happened in that case. Wow. I don't have anything here. I don't know what happened. I need to go look that case up and see what happened. I don't have anything here. That's interesting. I need to write that down.
Let us know if you need any help.
Yeah, well, 4 times 20.
Remind you to write down a case or something, anything.
Well, I'll go down to I have to go down and file some criminal complaints. I've been preparing. That's what I'm printing right now. I don't know if anybody's noticed the noise. I got a printer here printing stuff. I'm printing criminal complaints for that I'm filing against. I'm filing right into this case. I talked to the clerks, and they said that if I wanted the judge to see them, I have to put my case number on them. And so, which is, the instructions I had from Queen was not to do that. But the clerks told me to do it if I want the judge to see it. So I figured, okay, well, I'm kind of an in-your-face sort of guy, so I'll let the judge see it. And so, that's what I'm printing right now. I put my case number on it. I've already filed some into this case, and I'm filing some more. And then I'm going to send. I kept one copy because I like to have a copy, so I digitize them. I never keep hard copies. So I'll get rid of the hard copies by sending them to the U.S. attorney. And then I won't have a hard copy around here, but if I need one, I'll be able to print it. Anyways, I don't have an answer of what happened in that case. It got dismissed. I just don't have the order. I thought I had an order here, but I don't. So anyways, so what I did is that was the impecuniosity form that I file. And that was the orders that they gave me. And so I did it a little bit differently this time. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, right here.
Use your car.
Okay, I got to step aside.
He's going to drop me off. Is it okay if he uses your car?
I'll be back in a minute.
Roger that.
Hi,
Okay,
John.
I'm back.
Thanks for opening up the chat.
Anyways, so this is what I sent them. This is a response to the District of Columbia Corporate Clerk's impecuniosity interrogatory and electronic filing agenda. So first of all, it starts off with the impecuniosity interrogatory, okay? So that's what it is. It's an interrogatory. I don't know. I mean, they're asking you all sorts of questions. It's none of your business. None of their business. So point one is the demandant will gladly complete the impecuniosity interrogatory when the District of Columbia clerks, masquerading as judges, when they provide a bona fide Article 4 an amendment search warrant signed by an Article 3 judge with the court seal as required by the Authentications Act, requiring the demandant to provide any personal information based on probable cause of a crime, supported by oath or affirmation of a competent witness, fails to be a government employee, and it must include specific information required. And here's the Fourth Amendment. And then as far as the electronic filing agenda, the demandant will gladly complete the electronic filing requirements of the District of Columbia clerks masquerading as judges, A, when they provide the law that requires the demandant to get or use a Social Security number for their electronic filing in order to get a credit card, and B, when they provide the law that requires the demandant to get or use a credit card or a debit card or even a bank account for the electronic filing agenda, and C, when they provide the law that requires the demandant to get government-issued identification papers or plastic as required by their bankster buddies, as required by their District of Columbia electronic filing, and D, when they tell Yarborough and Somerton to arrest and prosecute the bankster thieves for their felonies when they close the demandant's bank accounts for failure to provide a Social Security number and failure to provide a government-issued identification, C or E, when they provide their authority to convert the demandant's right to justice in this matter into a privilege, F, when they provide a bona fide Article 4 amendment search warrant signed by an Article 3 judge with the court seal as required by the Authentications Act, requiring the demandant to disclose the Social Security number, disclose a credit card number, or bank account number, or name or address of government-issued identification for the electronic filing agenda. Paragraph 3, the demandant's a man and fails to have a Social Security number that the banksters require for a credit card or a bank account. You know that no man has a Social Security number, right? The demandant is a man and fails to have a credit card or debit card. Paragraph 5, the demandant's a man and fails to have a bank account. 6, the demandant's a man and fails to have a government-issued identification card that the banksters require, mostly because the demandant fails to be a government employee. 7, the demandant has filed felony criminal complaints. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, I'm back. See.
That's a good system. You send them the hard copy, just print it out if you need it. Helps save on paper.
Yeah. I get too much paper around here, I'll tell you. I got enough stuff digitized. And you have to back everything up, too, because what if you get a hard drive failure or something? Anyways, the demandant has filed felony criminal complaints with Chad Yarborough, Leah Simonton, that's the FBI and the U.S. Attorney, and their predecessors about Coinbase, Wells Fargo Bank, Frost Bank, Bank of Texas, Regions Bank, Comerica Bank, Compass Bank, PNC Bank, and TD Bank for their forced KYC, Know Your Customer, Social Security number, and government-issued identification requirements after they closed the demandant's accounts, some of which have been in place for many years, for failure to provide a social security number or government-issued identification, and Yarborough and Simonton and their predecessors absolutely refused to do anything about it. The demandant did file a suit against Wells Fargo in this so-called court as case number 4-14-CV-853-A, and the clerks masquerading as judges dismissed it for failure to pay their District of Columbia securities / Federal Reserve notes / IOUs / forced loans / extortion, evidencing their intent to sell their justice and justify the refusal of Yarborough and Simonton and their predecessors to prosecute the felonies. The fact that the officers of this so-called court are demanding their impecuniosity interrogatory and their electronic filing scam is proof that they failed to be lawful Article 3 judges, but are actually bought and paid for administrative clerks masquerading as judges and thereby disqualifying themselves, given that the issue in this case are core issues involving life, liberty, or property. And here's a bunch of Supreme Court cases. Non-judicial officers cannot perform judicial duties. Hepburn's case, Sibak versus Wilson. There's a bunch of cases here. I list, looks like about, oh man, a bunch of them here. Paragraph 10. The demandant has lots of first-hand knowledge of how the officers of the so-called court intend that these wrongdoers named herein and others engage in the theft of the demandant's land, because then they can justify forcing the demandant to give evidence against himself, to force the demandant into their satanic commercial District of Columbia dictatorship. So either way, it's a win-win-win scenario for the Satanist Bill priest officers of this District of Columbia so-called court. The demandant has lots of first-hand knowledge of how the officers of the so-called court intend that the wrongdoers named herein and others engage in multiple felonies and enslave the demandant because it brings them so much business. And also because they can then assault the demandant with their District of Columbia commercial dictatorship, with their fake money and their bankster thieves, their electronic filing scam, so they can justify assaulting the demandant with their minor estate at 31 CFR 363.6 Treasury Direct account, and enslave the demandant and steal the demandant's land. The demandant demands that the District of Columbia clerks in this corporate so-called court provide relief against their U.S. citizen wrongdoers named herein. And then there's some more court cases. Taking clause protects private property from legislative interference. Private property rights cannot be retroactively diminished by the judiciary without due process. Due process protects private property from arbitrary governmental actions. Here's a bunch of cases. Anyways, by regulating their property is required by Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or the property belonging to the United States, which is the supreme law of the land, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. And this is Article 4, Clause 2. No, Article 6, Clause 2. This constitutional laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties which shall be made under authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And every judge in every state shall be bound thereby, and anything in the constitutional laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. But they're acting as accomplices, busy fabricating evidence, assaulting the demandant with their Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, with their electronic filing scam, evidencing their intent to bring the District of Columbia dictatorship outside a maximum of 10 miles square in violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. But it's nothing personal. It's just business. Assaulting the demandant with their color of law minor estate, and then the Satanist bail priest can call it a contract. Failure of the bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judge in this District of Columbia's so-called court to do their duty to regulate their corporate property, and failure to vigorously prosecute them for their felonies might result in the demandant resisting their slavery scammering with lethal force if necessary, by hunting the wrongdoers down to complete a commercial transaction by blowing their fucking brains out, since they want to do a commercial transaction so bad and call that a contract. And if the wrongdoers kill the demandant when he resists their slavery with lethal force if necessary, the Satanist bail priest officers of the so-called court get to pillage all the fake money in the minor estate Treasury Direct account, 31 CFR 363.6, for themselves and their thieving bankster handlers under the Hague Convention concerning the international administration of the estates of deceased persons, concluded 2 October 1973, which is what they've intended from the beginning, as evidenced by the minor estate Treasury Direct account, which is a dead thing, which means it's a win-win scenario for the officers of this so-called court and their bankster handlers, which evidences their refusal to prosecute the 78 felonies because it has absolutely nothing to do with the law, which these Satanist bell priests have nothing but contempt for, but it is political. And they're giving aid and comfort to the enemy in a time of war. When the demandant turns up dead, this document will be the demandant's deathbed testimony. The demandant is a cantankerous old part and has lots of aches and pains, and the sooner he's out of this fucking hole, the better, with thieves everywhere, especially in the fake government and government employees that perjure their oaths at the drop of a hat, and the bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judges in this so-called court. And the demandant's conscience is clear, and he's ready to meet his maker. So go ahead, make my day. We're all here before this universe was created, and we'll all be here when it goes away, and before God, angels, and anyone who reads this as a witness, the demandant shakes the dust of the earth from out of his feet against these wrongdoers named herein, and the officers of this District of Columbia so-called court. And that's found in Matthew 10 and 14, Mark 6 and 11, and Luke 9 and 5. And we'll all be talking about this before the judgment seat of the true God on Judgment Day. Signed and sealed in red ink under penalties of perjury. And that's the end of it. So that's what I sent. So I haven't heard a peep out of them. I went down there and filed a bunch of criminal complaints. Probably, well, let me see. I can tell you how many. I filed 10 criminal complaints, and I'm printing off a bunch more. So I'm going to be filing, well, I don't know. I mean, right now I've got ready to go. I've got 6 ready to go. So I print 3. I have one for the court, one for the judge, and one for me. So then I get a file stamp copy, and then I'll send them all to the U.S. attorney. I'll be back in just a second. I have to step aside.
Roger that. Lay, were you saying something earlier?
I just thank you for opening up the chat. Thank you so much.
I think Michelle opened it. Yeah, thank you. How's it going?
Thank you, Michelle.
Harp.
Oh, I did post it actually 2 days ago. I posted it online, so, but no reply, no response. Not a big seller.
So what is it, about 80% of movie intros have a harp sound, you said? Music score or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. So is anybody familiar with the Amistad case? The Amistad was, it was the United States versus schooner Amistad, which was a slave ship back in the 1840s. And the slaves rose up in rebellion and killed everybody on the ship except for one guy. And that one guy, they demanded he take him back to Africa. And the guy sailed in circles off the coast of Virginia until the U.S. Navy found him, and they brought him back and they put him on trial for murder. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And there was 2 arguments. One argument was that if they were slaves, they were property, no different than a dog or a cat, and a dog or a cat can't commit murder. The other argument was they were free men and they had every right to do what they did. And the court agreed that they were free men, they had every right to do what they did. So slavery, you can resist slavery with lethal force if necessary. And so, you know, that's why I put that stuff in there. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend anybody doing that. you have to decide. You have to handle that stuff with kid gloves. That's for sure. Because you have to be careful about making threats and that kind of stuff. And so I tried to word it carefully, but at any rate, I said they might result. But I also talked about the Amistad case in the actual lawsuit. I just filed a first amended petition. Now, one of the things that I learned is that when you do amended petition, it's like an entirely new lawsuit. You basically file the whole thing again with whatever changes. You don't necessarily have to underline the changes or anything like that. You just call it an amended petition. So this is a different one than the first one, and it's got all the changes in it that are necessary. And so I filed an amended petition, and I have what I did one time is I went and just filed the changes, which made it pretty short. And the judge, when he issued his ruling, commented on that, and that was the wrong way to do it. So I learned the hard way not to do it that way. And so when you file an amended petition, you just make all the changes and file it as an amended petition. It's not that difficult. File the whole thing with the changes. So what I did was I added the State Bar of Texas and the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court because, I filed a bunch of grievances against these bar scum, and they get blown off. I filed dozens, and they all get blown off. And so when I say dozens, I might have filed 100 of them. There's a bunch of them, and they all get blown off. And so, there's a lot of times there's felonies involved, and they just say that we consider this a what do they call it? A complaint, not a complaint,
internal matter.
Well, they treat it like an internal matter, like they call it something that's really trivial. You know what I mean? I can't remember the exact wording.
Frivolous?
Sorry?
Frivolous or
No, they don't call it frivolous.
No, not frivolous.
But so they dismiss it. They dismiss it. I put it in my amended petition.
No cause that relief can be granted upon or something like that. But you mentioned that when you put an amendment in there, you put the edits and everything. Do you mean like you don't have to show them what's different? Add the edits at the end. You just submit the whole document as a whole re-presented? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Call it an inquiry. They call it an inquiry, and then they dismiss it. Even when there's felonies involved, they call it an inquiry. Don't get me going. So I figured, okay, well, I'm going to sue the state bar, and I'll sue because they're testifying against me. They're making false statements about me, and they just blow them off. So now I'm going to sue the state bar, and I want to get these bar members disbarred. There's about 6 bar members involved here. I want to get them all disbarred, and certainly get them slapped. I want them to, because what they're doing is this barratry. They're just getting business for themselves is what they're doing, and they knew I had sent them a notice and demand to the tax assessor collector and said, produce a bona fide contract. Somebody's rendered this property without authority. Produce a contract, and otherwise you're going to be engaged in all these felonies. And they just ignored it. And so that's why I think I got a pretty good case. I really do. I think they got a problem. I'll bet you some people wind up in jail over this because it's an extortion racket is what it is. Yeah, don't get me going. You're going to get me going here. So anyways.
What happened when you went down there? You said you were going to go down there last weekend and just check out the property. Was everything as you expected or had left it?
Well, I went down and paid their extortion, if that's what you're wondering. I did go down there and pay the extortion. And when I went down, I actually had to go back a second time. And the liars were there the second time. And that the tax assessor collector was shaken. Okay, they were shaken when they were handling that transaction. And I told them, I've been to the Supreme Court 5 times. You're next. And by then I'd already served them. I served the tax assessor and I served those lawyers too. The lawyers have been served. They're all being sued in their private capacity. And so they know what's coming. And they were we'll see. That's all I can say. We'll see. But that's why I'm using Queen's criminal complaints. This AO91, I think it is. Yeah, AO91. And so we'll see. That's all I can say.
It sounded like the showdown at the OK Corral or something. The lawyers were there. So.
Yeah, they were there for sure. Well, they were getting ready. They were going to sell my land. If I got there at about 9 o'clock in the morning, at 10 o'clock, the auction was going to start. So, there was cops all over the place, all sorts of stuff. But anyways, yep. I went and saw the court.
Sale was going to be on the 26th of this month. I can't believe that already occurred this week. No.
Well, the sale was actually going to be on the 1st of October. So I went there on the 30th of September, the day before the sale, and they wanted, it was a $400 tax, and with all their nickel and dime charges, it was over $2,200 is what they wanted. I didn't have that much the first time around, so they're really sticking it to me. And so that's all great evidence. I'm going to break this off in their ass, Yeah, don't get me going. You're going to get me going. So, anyways, so that's what I'm printing right now is criminal complaints. And so you're probably hearing it in the background. And I haven't heard a peep out of them. I went to court. I went to the court to file some criminal complaints a couple days ago. It was the day before yesterday. And I looked in the computer system, and there's nothing. There's no response. I filed this thing. Let me see when I filed it. It says right on the top here. On September 30th, which was Monday. And so I went there Wednesday. So they would have responded. They're pretty quick about responding to that stuff. They would have responded by Wednesday. But the only thing that was in there was a response by the Texas Department of Public Safety, Stephen McCraw. I sued him. And there's a motion from his liar to dismiss it. So I haven't even seen it yet. I got to go there tomorrow and pick up my mail, and I'll see what this motion to dismiss says. But I already know I'm going to file bar grievances against the lawyer. And, with a lawsuit against the bar, all these bar grievances are going to get extra attention, I guarantee you. Anyways, we'll see. They'll think twice about just blowing off my bar grievances next time. And we'll see. That's all I can say. It's just a crapshoot at the best of times. There's no justice. These courts are nothing but a bunch of bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judges. It's very, very bad. I wouldn't be surprised to see, we were talking about it today with some friends at dinner, and I think it's going to get really ugly. I kind of hope it doesn't. It'd be nice if these people would treat people right, but they populated the prisons. There's more people as a percentage of the population There's more people in Texas in jail than there is in the worst communist dictatorships as a percentage of the population. There's more people in jail in Texas as a percentage of the population than there was in the Soviet Union, than there is in China right now. As a percentage of the population, there's more people in jail. It's just absolute, and that's these fucking bar scum, and that's where the buck stops. And so we'll see. That's all I can say. So this is my response, and I haven't heard a peep back of them. And at this point, I'm not sure that I'll get a response. Although there's been other times that it took them a few days. Like I accused another time in the judge, I accused her over the filing fee. I accused this judge of bribery. That took her a few days to respond to, and that judge got appointed to the Court of Appeals. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So she did something that they liked, obviously. So, anyways, who knows? So this is what I did. Okay, remember? So we'll go back to it here. What you do is you basically tell them, in order to set up electronic filing or even to fill out their form, sure, no problem. You do a novation, a counteroffer. Okay, that's called a novation. Sure, no problem. I'll be glad to do it when you provide a bona fide Article 4 and Amendment search warrant, and it's called Article 4 and Amendment, by the way. If you look it up, it's not the Fourth Amendment. Okay, that's de facto. Okay, it's Article 4 and Amendment search warrant signed by an Article 3 judge with a court seal, requiring demandant to provide any personal information based on probable cause of a crime, supported by oath or affirmation of a competent witness that fails to be a government employee. That's what a competent witness is. And it must include specific information required. And here's the Fourth Amendment. So, and the same thing for the electronic filing, and no man has a bank account. No man has a social security number. No man has credit cards. That's that minor estate. Okay, that's that fiction. That's why they do it in all block capital letters. That's not a man. And so you got to understand that. I've been doing that for a long time. I don't have a social security number. I've never had a social security number. No problem. I've opened bank accounts that way. I have a bank account with Bank of America right now because I gave them a one-page affidavit. I don't have a social security number. I've never had one. And because no man has a social security number. It's that minor estate. And if I didn't have to have it, I wouldn't. I only do it because I have to. So anyways, I'm going to be doing my Northeast Private Information Share on the starting in October, on the 25th, 26th, and 27th of October, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of November, and the 8th, 9th, and 10th of November. So, and that'll be in Ocean City, New Jersey. Anybody that comes will get a free place to stay as long as you're there. And it's 2 blocks from the water. Okay. And they have bicycles there. If you want to ride a bicycle down to the beach, you can do that, or you can just walk down to the beach. I go down. What I do is I ride bike on the beach every day. On the boardwalk, they got a boardwalk that's 2.5 miles. So I'll go up at least once, complete length of the boardwalk, at least one time, both directions. So 5 miles. I do at least that. And then I also like to walk in the sand. I lock the bike up on the rail there, and I walk in the sand for a mile. That's one way, a mile, and then a mile back, and that way I get a little bit of exercise, and so that's my workout. Walking in the sand is hard work, I'll tell you. the soft sand. Anyways, so I try and do that every day when I'm up there.
Is it like a
but
conference where you go into like a conference room for breakout rooms and stuff during the day that like some seminars are?
Well, they're two large houses. Okay, they're huge houses, and so there's it's basically the living room of the family room of the house. So there's like in each house there's two kitchens, two fully equipped kitchens with everything in them you need. And then there's also there's probably how many bedrooms? There's probably about 15 bedrooms, 15 or 16 bedrooms in each house, and so it's the off season, so there's usually nobody there, or there might be some people there, but they usually what they'll do is they'll give me one house or one floor in the house. And which is enough. We can if there's 20 people there, we can seat everybody, and there's TVs, and I can put my PowerPoint presentation up on the TV, have Wi-Fi, and do everything that we need to do. And so it's basically about 8 hours each day, and I live stream a lot of them, and we talk about the law. A lot of times, like I have some stuff that I was planning on talking about. I have it on that announcement that we did here. Let's see. Common law court, how to set one up. We've, and the bills of attainder. Okay, on the first, second, and third, we're going to talk about bills of attainder, Form 1020 successes, and common law. So that'll build it up for the last weekend, where we'll talk about the common law court and how to set one up, and then we'll actually, if we can get enough people, we'll hold a common law jury. And if we can't get enough people, then we'll play like we do have enough people, I guess is what we'll do. We should be able to get enough people. We'll see. In the first weekend, we'll talk about the minor estate and should we try to capture it or not, the name, zip codes, felonies, criminal complaints. Matter of fact, if Queen wants to come and do a presentation, she's welcome to, and she can have as much time as she needs and do a presentation to whoever comes, and have a place to crash out too. And if you anybody that wants, I mean, you can stay all 3 weekends if you want. It's up to you. I'm there all 3 weekends, and then during the week, we go out, and there's places around there we go out to eat. But the kitchens are fully equipped, so you can buy groceries and bring them back and cook your own food. I do that a lot too. I'll buy eggs and have some eggs for breakfast or something like that, and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of expensive to eat out all the time, but so there's that option too. But anyways, so we're going to be doing that in Ocean City, New Jersey. And anybody that wants to come, we can see how a common law court is set up. You don't necessarily have to come every weekend. You can come one weekend, or 2 weekends, or all 3. It's up to you. There's special deals, though, if you come at least 2 weekends on the pricing. And but any way you look at it, you'll have a place to stay. Of course, it's a first come, first serve. And so, if the place fills up, then it can be a problem. I don't know how many rooms are going to be available, but usually they don't have any trouble accommodating everybody. What they'll do is some of the bedrooms might have 6 or 7 bunk beds in them, and so then we can put all the girls in one bedroom and all the guys in another one, or something like that. So they can stack them in there pretty good if they need to. But I've always had a room to myself, and usually that's how it works out for people when they come, is they get a room to themselves. But if they need to, they can. There's a lot of rooms that have more than one bunk bed in them, and so you might have to share. But it's kind of fun because you can brainstorm about stuff, and we do a lot of that too, and talk about things. So anyways, anybody wants to come, you're welcome to come. Looking forward to seeing you there if you come. And if you can't come this year, maybe next year. We'll see. I do these twice a year, one in the fall and one in the spring. So right now it's going to be October, November, and the next one is like April, May time frame. It's usually, it's been getting earlier in April. But anyways,
was it 3 days? October 25th and 26th?
Right, and 27th. 3-day weekends. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on each weekend. Three weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday each weekend. So, anyways, so it's best to reserve it in advance, as far in advance as you can, so that you can be sure to have a room available. And we'll
take Zelle. I mean, you got Bank of America, so you probably have Zelle. It's fee-free, by the way.
Yeah, I do Zelle. Yep, I got a Bank of America account, so yeah, they do Zelle. Actually, others, like you can Zelle from, I think, Chase, too, to Bank of America. But yeah, I do Zelle. winfern@gmail.com is my email address that you can find me on Zelle.
Just your name at gmail.com?
Winfern, WINFEARN @gmail.com.
Win without a G, just WIN, win?
Yeah, WIN. That's actually my middle name. WINFEARN, all one word, @gmail.com.
Yep, that's all I need for Zelle. Thank you.
Yep. And and then make sure you let me know if you're not coming all the weekends, which weekends you're going to come.
I just want to help Leigh get there, too. She deserves it. I mean, she's coming all the way from Canada, possibly, I guess. I don't know. She's confirmed.
Yeah, that'd be nice if she came.
Yeah, I'm working on getting a nice unit to get out there.
And what about the dogs? Sounds like a big house, so bring them. You are bringing them, right?
Don't scare them off, John. I was going to talk to him about that privately.
Outside of doghouse.
Of course, that's why I need my own accommodation.
Well, you'd have to talk to the owners about that. I don't know about pets. I have no idea. I've never had to deal with that, so I don't know. I could if you do, send me an email and I'll forward the email on to the owner and see what he says.
Yeah, I am. I'm sending you that information for that thing we talked about 2 weeks ago now, and I want a copy of your book sent. But if I'm going to come there, you might as well just keep everything and instead of sending it through the mail. But I want to forward you all that. So
okay, yeah, sure. And yeah, and did you still want that phone? We could probably. Darren's probably going to come, and he's got the phone. I can tell him to bring that phone with him.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to email you about. I investigated more, and my quick fix was actually not a very good Band-Aid because it's doing the same thing again. So I didn't want to complain about that here, though.
Okay, no problem. All right. Well, I guess that's about it. Do we have anything more that we want to talk about today? See, how long have we been going here?
You came early tonight. I was standing by, gonna jump on, and then you came on early at 6 o'clock my time. So that's your fault.
We figured that you weren't expecting me to be on time.
Well, I never want to be late for you, so I apologize, Glenn. Thank you very much, John, for carrying the opening up and getting everything going for John, or for Glenn.
I didn't do anything, but thank you. I made some good notes. I wish I would have started making the notes earlier. Any chance of getting a copy of that document? Not yet. It's private redacted, Glenn, or that was some gems in that.
Which one?
That status letter or that court case you just read, or I would call it, that's the best declaration of status I've ever heard.
This document right here over the electronic filing.
The first response? One where some guy helped you with it, or you used some of his words when he said I can't remember.
That was in that. I'll see if I got a Word file for that. Let me look here. I do.
You said they made him subject to a commercial transaction, and
the guy that helped me with that is a friend of mine from Toronto. It is in the absence of evidence to the contrary. I'm a Texian national and devoid of any knowledge of surrendering myself to the District of Columbia or their U.S. citizen scam. Are you talking about that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine from Toronto, Patrick Ellis, that helped me with that. He actually, he didn't really help me. He just came up with that phraseology. He comes up with, he's a brilliant guy. And he comes up with this stuff. And so I sit there and I look at it and I think, oh, I like that. Yeah, he comes up with some brilliant stuff. He's I've known him since the 90s. And so that's 30 years, I bet, eh? And I met him in Toronto back in the 90s. And yeah, so I can email you this if you send me. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just upload it to the group.
Okay. But in your email's different from your Zelle email, right?
No, that one will work. You can contact me on that email.
Either way, yep, got you. Thank you.
I've got probably about 10 different email addresses. Okay, there you go. It's uploaded to the group. Demand to proceed without the extortion. It's a Word file, so you can manipulate it all you want.
Awesome, thank you.
Any update on your brother, Glenn?
Sorry?
Any update on your brother's case?
Well, they're ignoring everything he's filing. And so he's supposed to have another hearing coming up, I think, in November. I got to find out. I told him to contact me back before the hearing. I think it's just a regular hearing. They're talking about a show trial in May or something like that. And so we need to probably file some bar grievances and some judicial complaints. And now that the dust is settled with my they're stealing my property, although it's going to get busy because they're going to be responding, wanting to dismiss my case. And so I got to respond to those. That's going to keep me busy here probably, for the rest of this month. Probably, I'll bet you. Yeah, it'll keep me busy because I got to. Once they do a motion to dismiss, then I got to respond here pretty quick. And so we'll see what happens. I might have to. I affected service good, but some of them I think are going to play hardball, and I might have to do it again. So we'll see. You know, as far as my brother's concerned, he doesn't have a hearing until I think it's December. I think there's another hearing in December. I probably ought to call him and just confirm. I think he's got a hearing in December, and then they're talking about a show trial in like May or something like that. So that's a long ways away. But that'll give us time to file some more paperwork. He's got to get a printer so that he can print stuff. He doesn't have a printer. His printer died.
Yeah, I know that holds a lot of folks up, and it's such an annoying thing. Don't even get me going on that.
Is he in Texas too? Or?
No, he's in Canada.
What about if he's there's business centers I know in BC that you can go to and they'll print anything for you. You just need to email them, right?
Yeah, that gets expensive.
Those places are your tax dollars, so they work for you.
Well, I can tell you that he is in this little town of 500 people out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I don't know if you know where Stettler is, Alberta.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, he is about 30 miles from Stettler.
Okay. So, yeah, very remote. I know the library.
Sure, there'd be a lot of secondhand. You could find secondhand. What's the biggest city close to?
Red Deer.
What are they going after?
There's another one called Camrose. There's another one called Camrose. He's between Stettler and Camrose, and about 30 miles from both of them. A little town of 500 people. Yeah, so it's out in the middle of nowhere.
What are they going after your brother for?
No driver's license, no registration.
Just have the judge order him to contract with the DMV. Can you order me to contract with the DMV, Your Honor? No, I can't. Well, if you can't order me to do it, you can't hold me liable for not doing it.
Well, that's a good point. But he's you got to understand, he's got a grade 8 education. And he's older than I am. And so he has trouble, he knows, what's right and everything, but trying to articulate it in a way that, they just say, well, and so that's what we're going to do is start filing war crimes complaints on him because they're taking reprisals against him for his political beliefs. That's a war crime. And so, we're going to start doing some stuff like that.
Well, there's an election here in Canada in about 2.5 weeks now, right? So prepare him to vote the way that will help his case.
Well, I hope they get rid of that communist government.
Gene Keating had got a suspension of his license letter from the California DMV. We sat there and I said, well, Gene, just sit there and accept the suspension and then write them a thank you note thanking them for restoring your right to travel. And that's what he did.
That's a good idea.
That's what I did, Glenn, too, when I got my ticket for uninsured plates up in BC. So that worked for me not getting the invite for court.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Agree with them. They don't know what to do. Agree with them and set the terms. Just order me to contract with the DMV to register the automobile and get a driver's license. Can you order me to do that, Judge? I'd really like an order from you because if he orders it, the judge has to pay for it.
There you go. Yeah.
And if he doesn't do it, well, if you can't order me to do it, then you can't hold me accountable for not doing it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Here, let me, there's actually, I want to, there's a friend of mine that found a common law court in Sweden. And you can get common law IDs. You can get, where is it? You can get they have a passport. You can get a common law passport. It's a common law court in Sweden. Common law court, Great Britain and international. But I guess it's in Sweden, is what he was saying.
I heard there's a jurisdiction in Scotland too, some jurisdiction that does something like that.
I'm putting a link in the chat. And they have, you can get a common law birth certificate. You can get, oh, by the way, there was someone here that was talking about someone that went into court with a baptismal certificate. And they gave it to the judge, and the judge looked at it, and they said, don't you want to change your uniform? And the judge stepped out, and he came back in with a white robe and a purple sash or something like that on it. And then he said, so what the judge didn't say this, the guy said it. He said, who has been injured? I'd like to see the injured party. And the judge dismissed the case. So that's just a rumor here. But there's actually a lot of validity of that. You go in with a baptismal certificate.
Since the prison system, the penitentiaries all over the planet, you have the office of the major penitentiary is a cardinal's office in the Vatican, and they're in charge of all the prison systems. The office of, it's right next door to the Inquisition office.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But if you go in there, they're presuming that it's the birth certificate that's there. If you go in with a baptismal certificate, that's a completely different jurisdiction. You see what I'm saying? And so that's completely different. I've got a baptismal certificate. I need to talk to my brother and see if he's got one. I've got one for sure. I was thinking I'd try that next time. Matter of fact, there's a friend of mine that he was gonna. There's actually another friend of mine that told me that you could go down to Mexico and you go to one of these small churches and you give the priest, $1,000 and say, I was down here. My mother said I was born here, and there's a baptismal certificate here, and we've lost it. And we're wondering if you could search your records and see if you can find something. And you give him like $1,000, and he'll find something for you. You give him the.
Glenn, don't cut that out of the YouTube video, Glenn, please.
No way, I'm going to leave it there. Anyways, you go to. That's what he told me to do. He said you could go there and talk to the priest and give him $1,000 or a couple $1,000 or something like that, and they'll find something for you. Oh yeah, we found it. Here it is. Anyways, all right. Well, so we've got the common law court here, and I think somebody needs to try. This guy's going to try. He said he's going to he was born in Catholic, and he was born in California, and he was baptized as a Catholic, and so he said that he's trying to get a copy of the baptismal certificate. And I said, well, you just need to pay him more money. He said they had trouble finding it. And I said, well, just pay them more money. They'll come up with something.
Well, what faith were you baptized in?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I was baptized in Lethbridge, Alberta.
Okay, but under what denomination? Catholic?
I was. It's a Mormon.
Okay, well, they should have very pristine records, the Mormons.
Oh, I do. I've got mine. Mine.
Oh, you have them. Well, there you go.
Yeah, my brother. I don't know about my brother, though.
It wouldn't be hard to track if you had yours.
I'm not sure.
Or another
his
new priest. That's their duties, is to create those certificates. They love that.
Hey, well, yeah, you got that right. That's all. That's really important. You know, back in the old days when the Soviet Union was in existing, there was, I heard, and just a second. Just a second, I got to step away.
Roger.
I heard if someone got a traffic ticket and they went in, the original recording date of the birth certificate. If you write on the application in California, it might work in other states. You write confidential copy requested, and you turn it 90 degrees in the margin, confidential copy requested in all four corners, and send it in. And in the bottom area under the birth certificate portion, it'll put the extra verbiage that's hidden on the normal birth certificate, and it shows the original recording date. And so he went in there and showed him the original recording date and says, this is the proper birth date, and we need to change the record. The record's incorrect. And as soon as he put that original recording date, they lost jurisdiction and the case went away. Because the man's not there, it's the birth certificate's birth date. So they use the man's birth date to joinder between the dead fiction and the living man, using the living birth date versus the fictional birth date. So by giving him the fictional birth date, the man is no longer joined. The living man's no longer joined. Make sense?
Okay, I'm back. So, anyways, anything else that we want to talk about here?
I just mentioned that someone had a traffic ticket, and the birth date for the birth certificate is, a month or two or whatever weeks after the living birth date. And he got a copy of his birth certificate, a confidential copy. It showed the original recording date. And he went into the clerk and told the clerk that there's a data error in your records, and this is the proper birth date here. This is original recording date. And she had the clerk change the birth date on this case to the original recording date, and the case went away, because when they use the living birth date on the case with that dead fiction name, it creates joinder between the man and the fiction. So by correcting the date for the fiction to have the original recording date, the man's no longer attached to the case.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep.
There was someone like this common law court. What I've heard is you can get a born date certificate, or a born certificate, or it's a certificate that shows the date you were conceived, which is 9 months before the date of birth.
Here, can I add something to that?
Go ahead.
So there's a thing called the East Asian Age of Reckoning, which counts the time in the womb. Okay? So also, let's see, it's Louisiana statutes defines a person as a time in the womb. So I've been using that, that's not my age and that's not my birthday and all that, but yeah, counting the time in the womb, and that goes right to the Religious Restoration Freedom Act and whatnot. So think about it. The Bible, for all those people that might be religious, before I knew you, I formed you in the womb. So that whole birthday is a bunch of malarkey, basically, if you think about it.
I was conceived in the mind of God before the beginning began. That's how old I am.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. God knew me before the universe created. It says that in the Bible too.
Right. And he formed you, and so he knew your spirit, and then you were formed in the womb. You weren't birthed. I was not birthed anywhere, so you can go bugger off and kick sand.
There you go.
It's really good to hear people get how crucial that that repugnant birth certificate is. That's been my passion for decades.
Well, the birth certificate's the estate behind the Social Security number. That's what a probate judge said.
Yeah, my question to that is, we want to talk about estate and trust law. If we're living in abundance, like we're supposed to be, and the kingdom of heaven is within, who gave them the authority to even create their version of a state?
It's the birthing event, and the cargo came down the birth canal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Under parents patria. It's not us, it's the birth event. Yeah.
They're a bunch of thieves and pirates is what they are.
But it states in Conservation of Estates, under here is Title 22, 2715C is part of the number, 2715C, where the birth certificate is held in trust for the claimant. When you read Conservation of Estates, it's held in trust for the claimant. Conservation of Estates. Talks about the birthing event, contact the next of kin, sell up, get rid of the perishables, the heirlooms. It goes into the general fund, and it's held in trust by the Secretary of State of the District of Columbia and held in trust for the claimant. When you read that 22 USC 2715 Charlie. So if that District of Columbia, she's the trustee, send some bills to her and see if it doesn't get paid.
Smoking Baby, if you were like born before, how do you put it, divine creation, before the universe was formed, like what date do you put down then?
I just state I was conceived in the mind of God before the beginning began.
So you can't put down anything?
We have a nativity date.
Okay.
And someone else,
I think Eric calls it date of reckoning, East Asian date of reckoning.
Someone went to the hospital, wrote doctor means physician and patient means client. And when signing the hospital records, he needed a hip replacement. He fell off a ladder. And he wrote down property of the state of Alabama birth certificate, whatever his birth certificate was, property of the state of Alabama birth certificate by, and his signature. And they gave him a private room. They didn't have the facilities in Massachusetts to do the procedure. They flew him down to Texas, red carpet treatment, no COVID test, nothing like that, private room, and then flew him back, and there was no hospital bills.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I try and not, I know there's some validity to that, but how do you do it? And until I know, how to do it in a way that's guaranteed to work, because they're just nothing but a bunch of thieves and pirates. I try and stay away from those topics. But I know that there's something there for sure. There's a damn minor estate that they assault you with. Anyways, I guess that's about it. I'm going to sign off. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll do it again next week. Same time, same place, same channel.
Okay, Glenn. Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch this week. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
You.